Ladies and gentlemen, there are stories in our headlines that speak not just of crime, but of the deep fractures that rippled through a community in the aftermath of violence. This is one such story. A young man, 18 years old, full of promise, full of potential, gone. His name was Ekhampreet Sahni Singh. And on a cold April night in Newcastle, his life was stolen in a moment of chaos, in a flash of gunfire, in a confrontation that spiraled into tragedy. It was April 23rd, just before midnight, a time when most are settling into rest, when the city grows quiet, when car parks should be empty, not echoing with violence. But at Bar Beach that night, violence did echo. Witnesses recall a fight breaking out. Shouts, movement, confusion. And then, a white SUV pulls in. Not to de-escalate, not to separate, but to escalate. An armed man steps out. He does not negotiate. He does not hesitate. He fires. And just like that, the life of Ekhampreet Sahni is lost. Paramedics rushed to the scene. They did what they could. But the wound was fatal. And Ekhampreet, just 18 years old, was declared dead where he fell. On the cold pavement of a car park that now holds grief in every grain of concrete. Minutes later, that SUV, the one that carried death, was found again. Not occupied, not parked, but ablaze. In Tingira Heights, just 20 minutes away, fire swallowed the evidence. Flames rose like a symbol of a plan to cover tracks, to erase what had been done. But justice does not burn away that easily. And now, months later, arrests have been made. The second man, 25 years old, has been taken into custody. Found not in the shadows, but in Kempsey, 280 kilometers north of Newcastle. A long way from the scene, but not far enough to escape the reach of law. He has been charged, not only with murder, but with the possession of a firearm. Not a petty offense, not an accident, but a deliberate, devastating act. He was refused bail, because in cases like this, where a young life has been ended, where a community demands answers, the court cannot look away. This is the second man charged. The first was just days after the shooting, a 22-year-old who was swiftly taken into custody on April 25. His case is still before the courts. But the investigation continues, because this story is far from over. Strike Force Bulwara, that is the name police gave their mission to find the truth. A task force dedicated to sifting through evidence, through phone records, through surveillance, through silence. Because silence is often the loudest shield of the guilty. But with time, with diligence, with community help, truth breaks through. This was not just a random shooting. It was not a mistake. It was not a gun accidentally fired. This was a targeted act. A calculated confrontation. A fight that escalated into murder. And in the center of it all, a young man with his life ahead of him. Dreams, plans, family, friends, all left to ask why. All left to mourn in a world that no longer holds his voice. Think of his parents, waking to that knock on the door. The unimaginable words, "Your son has been shot. He didn't make it." Think of his friends, the missed messages, the unanswered calls, the empty seat in the car, the silence in the group chat that used to echo with laughter. This is not just a police matter. This is a human one. This is about the culture we allow to grow in the shadows. About the weapons too easily obtained. About young people who turn to violence, not dialogue. Guns, not accountability. We often talk about youth violence as if it's a distant problem. But Newcastle felt it firsthand. Tingira Heights bore witness to its aftermath. Kempsey became part of the manhunt. These are not far-off places. These are our cities, our streets, a car park, a flame, a young body, a broken family, and now, two men charged. Two paths through the justice system unfolding. But no verdict can bring back Ekhampreet. No sentence can return what was taken on that April night. Still, the process matters. Justice matters. Accountability matters. We must support the police in their continued investigation. We must ensure that any others involved, any accomplices, any planners, any silencers, are found. Strike Force Bulwara is not just a title. It is a promise. A vow that this killing will not be ignored. That this life will not be reduced to a line in a court file. And to those who might know something, this is your moment. Come forward. Speak. Not for the police. Not even for the system. But for Ekhampreet. For the truth. Because violence thrives in silence. And justice begins when someone says, "I saw. I heard. I know." We must also talk about prevention. About how we reach young people before they fall into these circles. About why weapons are so easily accessible. About how conflict resolution disappears when egos rise and fists, or firearms, are chosen instead. This is not just about